Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Permissionless podcast brought to you by the team at Guardian. And of course, as always, we're going deep with DeFi founders, with DeFi builders to see what initially got them into the landscape of DeFi. How did they find their way in? What initially got them building? What challenges they're facing? And of course, what they see the vision for their protocol and DeFi in general. And today we have a really insightful conversation with Jorge, who was originally a co-founder of Aragon and now has been building Tuyo, which is building the UX rails to bring DeFi to the consumer and outside of the bubble of the market at which we've already saturated of folks who are willing to come in and log on, open their laptop, and download MetaMask and interact with DeFi. In that sense, they're building a completely new UX for DeFi and trying to onboard a segment of the population that really has not had access to DeFi before. So of course, we dive deep into some of the UX concerns, what their bottlenecks are with regulations, and how they're sort of navigating these waters and building today. Of course, before we get into this conversation, my name is Owen, and over 3 years ago, I founded Guardian, and we started out on the premise that DeFi would encapsulate trillions and trillions of dollars and be a major player in the global financial system. And so we set out to build the security audit solution that would allow teams to ship consistently and confidently in that environment. And so, of course, we have taken the security audit process to the next level, to the Guardian level. We use two competing audit teams, a world-renowned lead researcher, a dedicated fuzzing engineer to perform advanced fuzzing analysis. And our experience has shown that the traditional audit approach does not work. Many projects get a normal audit and then months or sometimes even years afterwards, their contracts are hacked. And with the Guardian model, we're here to put an end to this. And today we've achieved the standard necessary to onboard trillions of dollars into DeFi with already over $10 billion sitting in smart contracts secured by Guardian. Really, it's just a matter of time for DeFi to catch up. And now, of course, let's dive into this conversation with Jorge from Tuyo. Once again, appreciate you joining us, dude. I think, to be honest, it'd be great to start off and just hear a little bit about, like, how did you even find your way into DeFi, and then of course we can get to everything after that. But how did you first find your way into this market?
Yeah, so it was 2016, and my previous co-founder and I were actually in Silicon Valley building a completely different startup. Actually, it had a lot to do with AI, and everyone called it crazy. And we wanted to tackle the problem of patent trolls, which are like these horrible people that will get like a crazy patent that should never have been granted at an auction or whatever. And then because your business does some printing or some mailing, like they will go after you. By some weird turn of events, we ended up figuring out like our customers, what they really want is like insurance. And like we're like just two 19-year-olds from Spain in Silicon Valley. Like we couldn't build an insurance thing. And we ended up finding out about Ethereum, and we're like, we could build like an insurance vehicle on Ethereum. So this is like 2016, like very, very early days of building dApps and everything. That really captivated us to a crazy extent, and we got more excited and discovered about DAOs. Just was like very, very shortly after the DAO disaster. But like we really wanted to build like any type of organization. So we started this project called Aragon. And yeah, built and ran Aragon for like 4 or 5 years. And yeah, and like the work that our team did today powers like the governance from some pretty big DeFi projects like Lido. Everything Lido runs on top of Aragon OS, which we built. We've also had like this crazy story about like how an Anon suddenly deployed a DAO back in 2020, and like a lot of other big names. Yeah, Aragon is doing great now. It's run by a different team. Like they just shipped like a whole new version very recently, and they're powering the governance for like huge things like it's Polygon or other chains. So yeah, this is what brings me to the space and DeFi. And a year ago it started Tuyo as we saw the opportunity of not just building like infrastructure. Like we saw how like different pieces of Ethereum infrastructure were about to be ready or like barely became ready for us to be like a great consumer experience for us to build and like take to like our mom and like our friends and having them use it, but it still upheld a lot of the values that brought us into the space and we really care about: self-custody, decentralization, and like all this great stuff. And so yeah, this is like the journey to Tuyo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, yeah, Aragon's pretty pervasive. I think even just a little while ago, we had a podcast with Yield Nest. They're using Aragon for all of their DAO structure. And I mean, countless other teams, like you mentioned, some of the biggest DAOs in the world are using Aragon OS, which is, so I mean, pretty successful previous project there. And then, and you also mentioned, I think it was the insurance that you said was like the first thing that got you in. What kind of insurance? What were you insuring there?
We didn't have a clue of what we were doing. We needed to build like this like patent troll. We wanted to build this patent troll insurance thing, and we just like learned a little bit about insurance and build like an insurance fund on Ethereum. So it was like investors that could invest into the thing, and then like a process to process claims and so on. But it was like it was never more than a prototype. I think we entered in like some hackathon, some project called like EtherCamp, which is like very, very old Ethereum stuff. But then like very, very quickly after, like we just got excited about like, hey, every single company and every single organization could be built on chain. Like we should stop focusing on like this particular type of like insurance thing and just build like software to run companies and organizations on chain. So that's what kind of started Aragon.
Yeah, of course. And so that's an interesting pivot as well, because you go from kind of a with Aragon, like it's almost like a B2B offering to what was the thing that clicked and made you think like, okay, it's time for consumer crypto to actually happen, and we're gonna go and bring that to market with Tuyo. What was the few key things that you saw there?
Yeah, so I think it's like, I mean, personally, I started building and shipping iOS apps at 14. I think it's when I published my first app on the App Store. So I've always loved like building things and like having my loved ones using them. Then when we got into crypto, like it was at a point that it was like all the consumer-ish ideas that we had. And during the 2017 ICO craze, like you could see like every single permutation of an idea of like over on chain and like all these things. And like this all failed because like the tech just wasn't ready. And like Ethereum had barely launched in the summer of 2015 was like the Genesis, and it was just not ready. Like just like in winter of 2017, like the chain would like halt when CryptoKitties got like some sort of like traction within like the crypto nerds. And then like scaling took longer than anyone I think would have liked to figure out. And then like very, very important pieces of infrastructure like that we now take for granted, such as stable coins. But like I remember doing decks for Aragon, and we were like, we need like some like stable thing to work, because otherwise like all these companies just are running on ETH or tokens. So a lot of these things are like also like DeFi and like DEXs, like these are all things that have been coming online for like the past years. But even before like 2020, like DEXs just weren't a thing that was really working. So like a lot of infra and like pieces had to come together. In the case of Tuyo, it was like a combination of three things that we saw, and we're like, okay, we can now build like this like experience. It was like, on the one hand, Ethereum was scaling. The L2 roadmap finally looked like there were a few L2s. And it was like, okay, this is going to be the future. At least this is the strategy, and this is what's going to happen. And the fees were about to get low with EIP 4844. So we were like, okay, this is going to be, transactions are going to be cheap. People are going to be able to transact on chain, even if they have a small account value, which just wasn't the case in like 2020. Like if you had a very big account, you couldn't be doing things on Ethereum. So that was one. The other one was all of the account abstraction stuff, so that people could like interact at a higher level than just like sending transactions with MetaMask and having like these pop-ups, which like it's just shit. We're also like finally, after seeing like many attempts and like ideas and EIPs, like finally EIP 4337 like was gaining some traction and we could bet on it. And then like the other one was like all of DeFi, all of the pieces that had been coming together, like stable coins were, there was infrastructure for them and they had decent volumes, like DEXs were working, lending markets were working. So like at that point, it was like, hey, we can just put all these pieces together and build an experience that people won't even perceive that they're using something that is self-custodial, that is interacting with decentralized protocols directly. Because like that's the thing. And very, very quickly we built in Tuyo, we realized that it wasn't about people making the choice of using Tuyo versus like effects or some other people that have like similar features but are self-custodial. Like people weren't picking because of value. So like having the same or better experience was table stakes. And then from that point we could build stuff. And yeah, and I think we pretty much achieved it. Like a lot of our users like just couldn't tell the difference between like using the features that we have and the same features on a Coinbase or a centralized counterparty. So that's very good. And now it's like doing things better than them, or even like taking advantage of the things that we actually get as an advantage by virtue of like not having to hold user balances, not having to do a lot of different compliance things, because it's the user, it's their money, and we're just there like helping orchestrate the whole thing and making sure everyone has a great experience.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned like blockchain needing to be mature enough to build something like Tuyo, right? Like the L2 roadmap, being able to sustain an application like this. But on the other side, on the centralized side, did you run into like any problems or challenges, building something like this for the App Store or like these, centralized marketplaces?
Yes. The App Store is very tricky. Actually, I think it's probably the most, and now things are getting a little bit better. And I think the change in US in the US government is going to help with this. But the stuff that they were pulling with crypto, just because like they didn't like it, it was tough. It took us a while to properly explain to them what we were doing, why some of the things that they were asking from us didn't make sense, how other things were done. But it was tough, especially since like, I mean, it had been a while since I had interacted with the App Store. Like all of my crypto career, it was like going from like being like an iOS app developer where you're like confined between like within like Apple's playground, to going into like the Ethereum world, which is like, holy shit, this is permission, you can do whatever you want, to going back to having to deal with this and like asking for permission and having to convince someone in order for you to zip your software, which is like good. One, it's good. One, it follows all of their rules. And just like having to do this, it was a crazy experience. I really hope Apple improves this, because I think it's one of the most evil things in tech, and it's really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense for them to be able to put together some kind of an integration that could be standard, like an Ethereum integration that will go and do all this work. Because you have to imagine all the work that you guys had to go through. I'm sure the Uniswap team and, all of these other mobile applications, they're going through the exact same thing, discussing going back and forth with Apple. I think, I mean, assuming that Apple becomes more amenable to crypto, then
yes,
opportunity there to just like streamline the whole process for everybody. But
yeah,
once again, we'll see what the regulatory environment is looking more amenable to crypto every day, but see what happens. Are you bullish in general on like the adoption of crypto at Apple level and regulatory level in general?
So at Apple level, not really. I think some of the stuff that they're doing, they just shouldn't be allowed to. It's just like bad. It's like bad for the world. And like even if crypto didn't exist, like that level of control over like the software that billions of people can use, it's like it just doesn't sit right, and I don't think it makes sense. Like, I mean, they feel like the iPhone and the iOS platform is incredible, but like that level of control, I just don't think it's warranted. What I would love for Apple to do is like they have the opportunity to build like the best and like most well distributed hardware wallet ever, because it's not just about like the secure enclave that it has. And everyone that talks about like the passkeys and the secure enclave, which is like good that the signing can happen there, the user just doesn't see what they are signing, because it's like complete black box, and like the app can tell like the secure enclave, hey, I'm signing this payload, and the user just has like no control. But like if there was like an operating system signer where like it would pop up and it would like tell you about the payload that the user is going to sign, that would be incredible. I don't have my hopes very high for this.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to see this, but I think they have such a crazy, that would be so incredible for crypto.
Yeah, it's hard because they kind of have, in some sense, a competing product with like Apple Pay to like they have a negative incentive to open up Ethereum and Base
Yeah.
and all these L2s and allow people to transact on that layer. They would much rather have it all happen on Apple Pay.
Yeah, and an example of this is because we've looked into Asuyo has part of our focus is hugely on payments. And like an example of an API which is crazy restricted is if you want your iOS app to emit anything over NFC, so that you could potentially create like a competing Apple Pay experience. It's crazy. I mean, you can only do it for like 7 different things. And if it's anything to do financially, like you need like licenses and everything. And like they recently opened that up a little bit more, but it's close to a point that I only think like a Coinbase could probably pull it off for like an entity of this level of regulation. And it's like completely not an open API for something as stupid as like have my app be able to emit an arbitrary payload over NFC.
Yeah.
So these types of things in order to protect, as you were saying, Apple Pay, which is great. I love it. I use it every day. I have like weird, like a hard feeling. It's like it's not okay. And they shouldn't be able to do that.
So as a team that's not at the size and scale and like what you're able to invest as like a Coinbase or something like this, at least yet, how do you guys sort of like pick your battles with your roadmap? Because certainly there's a lot that you guys could go after, but how are you choosing what is it exactly that we're gonna really put our resources into?
Yeah, so right now our biggest priority is getting Tuyo to be widely used. We now think of Tuyo as like the first internet native bank, which is completely self-custodial. So like working backwards from there, it's like where is this the most useful today with what we have? And yeah, and that's like most of our time right now. The product is fairly complete at like a V1, very, very simple V1 stage. But we're at a point of like, okay, there's nothing like Tuyo. It's like to a level of user experience and like the things that you can actually do and you can have normal people do that. It also happens to be self-custodial. So we're like the first of our kind there. So this is like what we're seeing like, hey, what is like our biggest advantage of having like this and like the ability to have like a kind of like a borderless bank account that people carry on their phone and they can hold dollars, they can invest in whatever, they can get like yields on DeFi. So yeah, it's like the advantage of like we're able to get into different places or be used like worldwide from day one without having to have like a local presence or local licenses. So it's the ability to like be live everywhere from day one by virtue of being self-custodial, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, this is like where we're mostly interested today. It's like the cross-border use of crypto. And these days what we're seeing the most is like the prevalence of stablecoins and stablecoin use, which like still for consumers, it's like not very, very big. So this is where we're focusing a lot of our energy on right now and for the coming months.
Right. So far, I mean, really just to outline Tuyo in general as a product, it's consumer grade, having your own custody of your own assets, and then also being able to obviously pay cross borders permissionlessly. And then I think you guys are also coming out with a Tuyo card, or it's already live, and this is really exciting, and I think we'll have a lot to get into there, but adding more use cases where you can actually go and use your crypto balance at point of sale. And I'm interested to hear like how this is implemented technically, but I think you guys are using Apple Pay under the hood. How does that sort of come to life? Yeah,
so the Tuyo card, I mean, depending on when this goes live, will already be live. I mean, like it's already live.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tuyo card is a Visa card, which feels like it's like the first, I call it like the first crypto card, which feels like a debit card, like and really feels like a debit card. And we can get into what that means. That is completely self-custodial. So yeah, for right now, we're not huge fans of the card duopoly, but in order to get crypto used for payments today and not feeling like an outcast, you just need to do that. And we want to get people used to having stables, having crypto, and like using that to pay and like be that their bank daily. And like the only way to do this today, it's either card or cash. The cash part and having to use like crypto ATMs or P2P deals, it's very cumbersome. So we had to build a card. It's available everywhere that the Tuyo app it's available. And yeah, we do the most we can to keep everything, all the funds self-custodial until the very moment that they're spent. We do our best, given that the privacy constraints of public blockchains, to keep everything as private as possible, even though there's a lot of more work to do there. And yeah, I'm just having something that it just works and getting people used to like, hey, this is my bank. And like for me personally, I've been using this, I mean, now for 2 months. And like I don't use my bank. Like all in Tuyo. I'm like co-founder Alex and I were like the guinea pig, and it just works and it's fantastic. Yeah.
And so technically speaking, what happens is, so this is my understanding is that it's not a prepaid card. You don't have to like fill it up with USDC or anything. Is it, so you swipe it, what does it take out of Apple Pay and then it buys USDC and transfers? What's the like technical underlying of how the card functions?
So there's the part of like how so when you use the card, I mean, you just get like a normal regular Visa card on your Apple Pay. And the premise is if you have stables in your Tuyo account and you pass the card, it will work. If you don't have stable coins, it just not. It will not work. Or like your USDC, until the very moment it's spent, you can see it in your balance in the app, so you can see if you can spend it or not. And the reason it doesn't feel prepaid is that you don't need to like constantly manage like, hey, what's my card balance, and like transfer, deposit money, withdraw money, or have money somewhere else. Whatever USDC you happen to have on the app, you can use it in the card. The same way that if you have a debit card tied to your bank account, if there's cash, you pass the card, it works. And you don't need to think about like managing your card.
Yeah.
And then with whatever funds you have there, like if you want to trade your entire USDC balance for ETH, then after that moment, you will pass the card and it will be declined because you don't have USDC to work. But you're using the Tuyo app, and if there's USDC, it will work. And yeah, and we decided that and this was an active decision not to treat stablecoins as cash and your investments in like other tokens, ETH or whatever, as investments, and not, I mean, technically we could build it so that it would sell your ETH, but that's a bad idea. Like, don't sell ETH. And also like the ability, like just having people think about like every time you're buying a coffee, thinking about the price of ETH, the tax liability that you're creating at this moment, like, oh my God, what was my entry price? So like we want to make like if you need to sell some crypto to cover your daily expenses, like we want that to be an explicit thing of like, today I'm selling this token and I'm cash. So yeah, it's very simple. If you have stable coins, you can use a card.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that design decision makes a lot of sense. That would be a tremendous headache.
Yeah.
Go back and like figure out, oh, I bought this coffee with ETH, and then you've got to look at the exchange rate. Yeah.
Yep.
And you guys could create like a huge need for crypto accountants there, and then you could sell them, like upsell that at the end of the year. Hey, you want to pay somebody to figure out this mess? But yeah, that definitely makes sense. So the big unlock there is having a Tuyo account, and then the account holds USDC, and then of course you guys have implemented all the infrastructure to go and get that USDC able to be automatically supported by everything that supports Apple Pay. Is that right?
Yes. So we work with a provider actually, and this is like one of the parts that is crazy. And we try to take this approach with everything we build, is that we are like Tuyo itself. It's just like the pretty app, but like, and we're like orchestrating everything, but like we don't touch the user's USDC. We just make sure the pipes are set up so that after like we're able to determine like whether a user making a purchase is going to pay for it. And then we make sure that the settlement, whenever it needs to happen, ends up happening. And it's like directly like a user owned account to which we have like some very, very little permission, and ends up paying or the card provider and transferring them USDC. So like we don't even touch the funds. We never receive the funds, and it just goes directly. So yeah, that's what we do, and this is part of what's uniquely enabled by smart accounts and account abstraction, and the fact that every user account is a smart contract, which is programmable, and we can have this sort of like more complex permissions, which like could be complex at a technical level, more complex than just a private key, but that result in a user experience that the user is just like, they don't even see what it's happening, and like everything that they expect would happen when they pay for a coffee and they get like they have to pay $5. That happens, but they don't need to think about it, or they don't need to manage it.
Excellent. And so in that sense, it's really the Tuyo app is really just a front end to interact with your smart account that's on Base or whatever chain. I think it's Base. Yeah, so really, I mean, that's the core of bringing permissionless custodial, non-custodial tech to consumers. And in terms of like adoption of this and the core pain points that you guys are solving, what is the number one pain point that you see that drives people to download the app? Like what is the number one thing that Tuyo users are downloading the app for?
Yeah, so I mean we're barely now launching the card at this point and really
Yeah.
starting the marketing efforts, which we haven't really started. So right now the user base is kind of small, and like we have a lot of people using the app for different reasons. But where we see the most amount of need in the coming months is like basically bringing USD to people who crave USD and they might be receiving it for a variety of different reasons, like
Yeah.
be that they work remotely using Deal and that they get money from their family who lives in the US. And then being able to just like get that like wherever they live in the world, but probably in economies that are more used to dealing with USD like LATAM. And then they get like a US account number, a European account number. Soon we're going to have like a Mexican peso account number. They get that. So like they have like the front end to not just like a crypto wallet, but like the front end, it's also like a bank and they get a card and they're able to use it in that way. But they also get like all of the crypto and DeFi stuff. And if they want to invest and get some ETH, they can do it in like one tab. If they want to get some yield on their USD until they spend it, they can do it. And with like one tap, they get their USDC on app.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea. So we have like it's both the front end to an international magical bank account, but like you also have like the front end and the features to the best crypto features, and we package all of that into a thing that kind of resembles like the first internet bank account.
Excellent. And also, sort of tangential to that, I know Brian Armstrong, he recently put out an article on X talking about on-chain yields and how do we bring on-chain yields to USDC. Obviously, this is down the pipeline. It's not coming probably even this year, but is that something that you guys would also be looking to expose to your consumers? Let's say USDC has an on-chain yield of, whatever the treasury rate is, maybe it's like a 3.5%. Is that something you guys would be able to pass on to users of Tuyo?
Yeah, I mean, we have like an early version of this with like our bolts. Which right now they're just like a front end to Aave.
Yep.
So and actually this is one of the features where they also didn't do any marketing and like people loved it. People actually, I mean, when we shipped this, the USDC yield on Aave was 12%, so people really loved it at 12%.
Yeah.
Now it's at like 3%, and people don't like it so much at 3%. But yeah, I think this is great. Regarding the sources of yield, like we'll probably not get there, but I'm not sure. I mean, like our users just want like, hey, we have some USDC, and they don't want to be on like the craziest pool to DeFi situation, which is very risky. So it's like basically like having something which is like reasonably risky that gets curated for them, and then providing like a very, very simple way to use it and be able to like distribute that to the masses, basically.
Yeah, and do you guys also have like an on-ramp to be able to get USDC from fiat into USDC and Tuyo?
Yeah, but we actually don't think of it as an on-ramp. It's like your Tuyo account once, and this requires KYC. Whenever it touches fiat, we need to KYC. But yeah, basically you get like your on-ramp is like an account number. So like you just wire money or like transfer. You can transfer like USD or Euro to like your Tuyo account number, and then it shows up magically as USDC on the app one-to-one. It's like cash on Tuyo, it's USDC, and if you wire $100 at 100 USDC, like the on-ramp is like, yeah, just have that.
And under the hood, this becomes USDC on Base. Is that right?
I mean, we're seeing like usage of Base more than other chains because of how we built Tuyo. Like your Tuyo account lives at the same time on many blockchains. We're live on 5 right now. So like the account, and actually you can swap between like whatever chains, and we abstract that very well from users. But like the main activity that we're seeing, it's on Base. And right these days we're defaulting to Base for all activity that happens on Tuyo. So like if the user doesn't have a strong preference that they actually really want to use Polygon for this, they will use Base. And the card for now only runs against users USDC base.
Yeah, and that's actually, you bring up a good point there, is like abstracting away the different chains that are supported from the user. Do you guys have like under the hood bridging logic for, let's say, if somebody wants to go use Aave on ETH, but they have other funds on Base or something like this? Are you guys using like a layer zero under the hood, or is there any logic?
So when we started, like there are like now a lot of great APIs for this. When we started, there wasn't really anything that did this, so we had to build a lot of stuff. It was like we wanted the trading to be very good, but now for like all our cross chain stuff, we use Relay. It's very good. It's very good, yeah, and it's something that we could improve. But like Relay, it's like for like 99% of trades, it's just great.
Okay, and then from there, so you guys are supporting multiple chains, fully interoperable under the hood, abstract away for the users. I mean, this is really what it is that DeFi needs to reach the next like level of users. I think we've really tapped out like the amount of people that are willing to open up and download MetaMask. So I think you guys are attacking the core of the problem of like, how do we actually grow the marketplace? And that's, yeah, it's going to be with a UX revolution. We need to get access to just a different order of magnitude of people. And I do think mobile is that wave. I mean, it's got so much more total addressable market than like people who have got like a laptop to pull up and like do all this.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and I didn't, if you had asked me in 2017, like I would have expected that the UX of using, we call them V1 wallets like MetaMask and all the usual suspects would have improved a lot to the point that normal people could use them. But I completely agree. I think we're tapped out, and like the amount of threats like that people can be, I mean, like basically with this, you're carrying your entire net worth or bank account on a crappy Chrome extension that like any website on the internet you're visiting can like send stuff. No one knows how to read transactions. The ones that we know, I know, I mean, I could read a transaction, like people are just like confirm. Hundreds of or billions of dollars have been lost to like this. And like, it's just, I mean, it's unfortunate, but like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, it's and we had like a big push of like new people coming online and like downloading wallets to basically go to the casino with like meme coins and PAMFAN and whatever. I don't think this is how people are going to be interacting with their financial life account with them over the internet, and anything that they visit can like prompt them to like basically ruin them. It's like
very adversarial.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. And I think once more, I mean, it's too bad that Apple kind of controls, they have captive like the user base that we exactly need to get to, and in the exact mode that DeFi really needs to be able to grasp them in, which is the mobile environment. I mean, I think with like apps like Robinhood and all the other litany of like fintech apps like that, that is going to be the future of consumers interact with their own finances and manage their own finances. And that's where DeFi needs to go. And really the bottleneck there, like you said, is how do you actually get stuff to work in the Apple marketplace? How do we be able to surface DeFi? And I think, so you say you've already got like Aave and stuff like this, but you mentioned like maybe a little bit of troubles listing like arbitrary integrations and being able to send like arbitrary call data. Like, let's say I want to use some random DeFi app that's not whitelisted by you guys. Do you guys have any regulatory issues with being able to support that? What does that process look like?
Not really. Typically, these are not the issues that wallet have been having. I mean, our stance right now is like, yeah, we don't want our users to be exposed to that. So we're taking a like kind of like standard approach in the same way that like with tokens, you don't need to integrate like, I don't know, like eigenlayer in order to support like the eigenlayer token. I think like for DeFi and for bolts, like it should be in a similar way, which like unfortunately hasn't really landed in the same way for like the extra complexities of this. For now, it's like we're taking for now, like we just really want to nail like the very, very core features and like make sure that people that really need Tuyo get to know Tuyo and get to use Tuyo and get to love it before we think about extensibility beyond there. Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's like very, very important that eventually like permissionless innovators, like it was myself a few years back, can ship something to like the millions of users that Tuyo will have. Like that's very important, but like we don't have a clear path. I think what others are doing, like World with their mini apps, and like Coinbase is also bringing them on, or Farcaster. I think that's interesting. I'm not sure if that's too similar to dApps to not end up having the same problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm following that closely, and I think that's super interesting. But we're taking a more like first party approach to things, a little bit more walled garden. And it's like anything that you can do on Tuyo, and like I mean, I don't even teach my friends, or I can give Tuyo to whomever, like I know they're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Like the worst thing that they can do to themselves is buy a shitty token. And like that's on them. But it's not you don't need to explain like be careful with phishing, like all these things and this protocol and blah blah blah. So yeah, this is for now in order to keep focus on how we approach it.
Nice.
These
Yeah,
are safety rails that DeFi has needed for a long time.
definitely. Yeah, like and speaking of users and like the approach you mentioned too, what KPIs are you tracking like as you grow and you start marketing like you mentioned? Like what's the North Star?
That's a good question. Number of users and assets on the number of assets on the platform. I guess I wish I had a more interesting but I think it's about
No, it
like
totally makes sense.
how many people are we reaching, and
Yeah.
like how much Studio is getting used. It's like a very very financial. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I think that's what's gonna mark success.
And I mean, I think that's telling of like what you guys are building towards, which is, so you said number of users, like that's, you guys definitely want to go mass market. You guys want to bring that mass adoption, everybody's been talking about since, really, like 2011. But, like that's what you guys are going after, is how do we bring the world on chain and get them access
Yeah.
to, first of all, self-custody, but also DeFi, the best of DeFi, not the worst of DeFi, ideally.
Yes. And I think we need to start where there's more need.
Yeah.
Because like even self-custody, and I find myself, and this happened to me many times, that I think that people will care about some values that I think are very important, but like I mean, like people only care about self-custody the day after FTX collapses. That day, everyone wish they were self-custody in their funds, but it's something that, I mean, it's just the way it is. So, I mean, I think self-custody, it's tremendously important. I would get very, very mad if like someone tried to take away my right to self-custody. And I think like everyone should self-custody a percentage of their net worth in whatever asset. And I think it's very important, but I don't think the world is there. And I don't think we need to lead with values and trying to convince people by preaching this. So it's about like, who can we reach and who is like in most need. And these are people that are in economies where the US dollar is not their local currency. Their currency, it's probably not great, because otherwise they wouldn't. I mean, I'm from Spain, and if you go around in Madrid, like people are okay with the euro. No one thinks about like the euro to USD rate, even though it has fluctuated a lot. People are just okay and have a certain level of trust, but this is not the same case in the rest of the world. And I think we're gonna see, like with like stable coins, like an export of the dollar to a lot of places where they've been suffering like tremendous control in the form of like currency control, that they're gonna be lifted by bringing them onto like this global economy. This is where we're starting, and this is places where decentralized counterparties, like they probably care too little, or like the market's too small for them to care, but like since it's self-custodial, like we're able to serve them at very very little cost, and I think that's where it's going to be very very interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like with the beliefs and the values of everybody, thinking like, okay, everybody's got to be self-custodial. I think we've got 90% of the people who really deeply care about self-custody already on chain and using crypto. Like those are the people who are willing to deal with the MetaMask and deal with the wallet experience today, are the people who really have a core like understanding of self-custody and a belief that, of course it should be decentralized and stuff like this. So I think you're absolutely right that attacking the pain point of the need and being able to bring like, how do we get those people who need more access to USD access? And it's an interesting point because, okay, so let's say we've got full permeation of all of these areas where we need. What about like the first world, like US, what do you think is the need? Like, let's say, 5 years down the line, how do you think crypto starts to permeate the US economy? To me, it's almost like the B2B will be the
Yep.
first big use case because of transaction fees, and then that will probably permeate to the end user just by way of businesses switching off of normal payment rails. But is there any other sort of pain point that you see arising in the US?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think the V2V is obvious, but I
Yeah.
would personally hate it if everything that we do here is like we upgrade the bad old infra for banks, and I think that would be a very, very depressing future. So we're gonna fight that we don't get there. But like with the US, like for like retail, it like happens a little bit as in Europe. Like people are sort of fine with their bank. Like they don't really. The weekend at Silicon Valley Bank looks like it's going to collapse. Like
Yeah.
people probably think like, "Oh, I hope I didn't have money here," but like then like people forget very, very, very quickly. I think about like consumers. It's all about incentive. It's how the card networks, like all of that business has ended up being so big and so entrenched, and it's all about incentives. And I think when people are thinking of like, oh, let's take down Visa or Mastercard, like the thing that they are is like they're geniuses at incentive design, and like they're
Yeah.
not taking all that money of every transaction, though they do a lot of transactions and a lot of volume, but it's about like how the card system is so that the issuing bank and like then the rewards that get passed on to the consumer and all of that. And I think in order for us to move like real like consumer payments into crypto, like we're gonna need to come up with like a better incentive mechanism. I don't think it's just about telling merchants like, hey, with this you
Yeah.
pay half the fees. And this is like part of why with Tuyo we're leading with the card. Because like every other like pay with crypto initiative has tried to focus on like acceptance and merchants first.
Yeah.
But those experiments have been like very, very limited, like coming back to like when this started happening with Bitcoin in like 2012 or so, because like people don't carry crypto with them and people aren't used to like, hey, this is like part of the money that I used to spend, and like myself included until I had to. I don't need to carry crypto with me on my phone. So just like what I was starting from the other end, which is like getting a lot of people to have crypto on their phone to like be used to like, hey, this is like part of my daily expense. I use like this thing. And then it just happens that it's like self-custodial. And then at that point we can try to start thinking of like, okay, let's replace like part of the other infrastructure, but going from like another point in which like a lot of people are having like have crypto and they're using crypto day to day,
Yeah.
instead of the other way around.
Yeah, and of course, with this approach and also the way that it's sort of architected on the back end to be totally trustless and non-custodial, do you guys even see yourself as having any real distinct competitors, or from your viewpoint, are you guys attacking the problem from a completely unique way?
Yeah, the thing is like because of what we were talking before, the values of self-custody and a lot of these different things that people do not have very, very high on their list of
Yeah.
priorities or like on their purchasing decision points. They're like, I mean, we're competing with other things that are completely self-custodial or like that even banks, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because like if people don't perceive the difference, like they're as worried as having like $100 on Tuyo, which actually we have like the disadvantage that like we're like a new brand. For some people, like crypto is a little bit icky, so we need to fight that. But provided that we're like a complete equal footing, if people don't care about the self custody, it's like
Yeah.
about like, okay, what are the unique things that we can bring them that this new system gives them? And like there are a few things. I think it's very obvious that yields are probably going to be higher with what you can get on DeFi than what you can get on the with the risk-free rate. I think that will happen. And then other things of like hey, people want to access crypto markets. But I think it will be about like, hey, this just needs to be better, period, and like bring
Yeah.
in some of the unique things that we can do with crypto and incentive design to make this something better. I actually, I actually like saying that Tuyo is actually a conspiracy to get people to do self custody, even if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
they didn't have any preference
Trojan horse.
before. And actually, the company, I don't know if you know, but Tuyo, it's Jorge in Spanish. So like we literally call the company like Jorge.com.
Yeah.
And also to have like some of our roots. So yeah, but I think it needs to come down to hey, the thing that we built is like has better value for customers, and then we can do some of the unique things that we can do on crypto that you just cannot do on the boomer banking infra.
Yeah, having DeFi on your side is a pretty powerful partner to bring
Yeah.
value that is just impossible in the traditional financial world. And that will only compound and compound with time. So I think that will become increasingly bullish for you guys. But also coming from Aragon, which was, more of a B2B offering type product, obviously there's a lot of new challenges with going consumer and going more like B2C. What has that been like for you? Are you sort of in charge of like the marketing efforts there? What does that look like for you guys, and how's that transition been?
Yeah, it's been interesting. The thing that I love is like being able to show people things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was on like a high school reunion this weekend, and like being able to tell them like, hey, I mean like not sounding like a crazy man, that you're telling people like we're building like an internet native borderless bank, and they're like, oh cool. But then you show them the app and you have them touch the app, and then
Yeah.
you invite them for drinks, and you're like, hey, I'm paying for this
That's
drink,
cool.
and like the thing
Yeah.
just works. So like that part
The
of like
operative.
that feels amazing, and I mean it's like a personal thing. I love building things. I love building useful things.
Yeah.
I also love building things that I myself use. Yeah, the into your like the go to market part is gonna be absolutely key. We have a very small team. I mean, and this is like priority for the entire team. It's actually my co-founder who's been leading the charge on this. Yeah, we're barely getting started right now. I mean, it's actually been two of us, the two of us building this, and with one designer. So like we've barely got the thing to like a V1, and now it's getting to like this next stage of actually taking it to market. So we're barely getting started. We know there are gonna be a lot of challenges, but we're basically at square zero yet.
That's awesome. And so obviously, yeah, I mean the road is just beginning on the marketing front. Is there any kind of like iteration that you've done on the messaging? Like obviously there's a few things. There's like you said, there's the custodial aspect, which maybe trying to lean away from that and dive more into the utility. What's like the messaging? What is the main like tagline? Like let's say we've got a room full of people and we want to get them onboarded to Tuyo. What is the offer? What is the messaging?
Yeah, right now, well, how we're thinking of it is like it's a first internet native borderless bank or bank account. Banking has been like because of like having such tight regulation, and for good reason, because like banks are like a very interesting business in which like they
Yeah.
hold your money, but like they don't have all your money. So like
Yeah.
for good reason, it's something that is like very regulated, and it's been like inherently local. So I think it's like the first time that because of the properties that we have, we're able to create like the first one, which is like really internet native, which means it's borderless by default, and it's like converting. And we've been hearing this in crypto forever, but like the thing works. I mean, this is my
Yeah.
I don't use a bank, and this is a bank, and it actually works.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think with the product like this, it's almost like your marketing could be more of like education. Because and obviously you as well, we're of the belief that if you fully understand how everything works, then this is kind of like the obvious choice, which is you're going to get access to all of these on-chain yields in a safe manner. Once again, you've got like some guardrails in place, and you don't have all of this sort of shady stuff that's going on in the TradFi. And I mean, of course, there's regulation there, but you've got custody and all of this stuff, and you've got access to yields that will not be able to be competed with if you've got all these counterparties and stuff like this. So it's almost like education is the key to bringing on the masses. And of course, if you've already got a problem where you don't have access to USD, it's very straightforward to say, okay, this is your problem. This is the solution. This is exactly how it's set up, and this is why it's resilient against some of these other solutions like centralized services and stuff that they don't even have access to in their country.
Yeah, we're probably leaning more towards the latter, of like hey, these are digital dollars. Like I having not explaining, I mean not hiding stuff, but not confusing people too much.
Yeah.
And we're basically making a lot of reasonable decisions in terms of like risk of like, hey, we like cash into you, it's USDC. It's not some
Yeah.
like wonky algorithmic stable that came out yesterday with like a
Yeah.
300% APY. So yeah, I think that's probably more of the approach, and I think a lot of the industry has been trying to lead with the format. And like I had a lot of friends that like felt that they shouldn't be investing in crypto because like they didn't know enough or they didn't understand it enough. And I think that kind of like elite is sort of like being like, oh my God, this is very complicated. Let me explain you all of this. And I mean, and I love explaining this stuff, and like I can get on a whiteboard and write stuff for hours. But I think it's more about like, hey, this is a way for you to like have these dollars. This is great. The experience is fantastic. And if you need to spend, you get your card. And then if you want to learn more, like we're happy to provide all of the materials and all of the learning. But like we're not, we don't think we have to evangelize with like values and technical explainers as much as I love both of those, but more of like this like this amazing unique thing that you can do now that you couldn't do before, or like you weren't served because you weren't interested enough. Yeah, that's it. That's the idea.
Yeah, utility-based approach. And I think it becomes a no-brainer offer when you have the right utility. And I think DeFi being on your side is a big unlock for that. And then finally, I was also interested, like what kind of, have you reached any bottlenecks in terms of like hiring and building out a team? You said you've just recently gone from like 2 people in designer to having more people brought on and starting to build out more stuff. What's that like?
Yeah, it's something that I mean, while we were building the product, we were doing kind of passively, and we haven't been very successful because we're still 2. So now we've converted this into like one of our biggest priority, head to head with like taking this to market to users. So yeah, we're super interested. We want to build at least in the beginning like a very small team of very talented people. So we're hiring for a role that we're currently founding engineer for more senior to principal level, and someone that would probably end up being like executive or whatever when it makes sense for us to even have executives, but like very senior. And then hiring for both generalist software engineers for the API and all of that, and also mobile engineers for the app.
Yeah, and I saw you guys also have like a bounty up for anybody who can like refer to.
Yes, yeah, we have a 5,000 USDC bounty in the app now.
Okay, where should we send them if anybody's watching this and they're interested in working on such a cool mission with you guys?
Yeah, so at tuyo.com we have a careers link there, or just like ping me on Twitter or over email, which is my email is j@tuyo.com. So very simple. And yeah, would love to talk to anyone. And we really want to build a championship team here. And I think the base is tremendously great, but still so much to build.
Yeah, the opportunity is really endless. And I mean, you guys being a mobile app, would it be you're looking for that intersection of like mobile experience and blockchain experience, or like what's the requirements there?
Not necessarily, though being very interested or actually being very convinced of crypto, 1 being good for the world, and 2 being convinced that we're gonna extend it to all over the world. That's a requirement. But actually the mobile app, because of how the app is architected, it's not a lot of crypto stuff. For like the more generalist software engineer position, there's more crypto and Ethereum stuff there. But also it's possible to learn a lot of this.
Yeah, and that makes it a lot easier not being like such a hardcore DeFi based project. You're open to like a much larger market of software engineers that can come on. As long as, like you said, it's really important that they believe in the vision and they're really excited about it. And if you've got that, and of course you can pick up the blockchain details. But yeah, so hopefully we've got a lot of folks technical that listen to the channel. So hopefully if anybody's excited about the vision, excited about what you guys are building, they can reach out. Or if anybody knows somebody, they can maybe be able to collect the bounty and help you guys out there. But yeah, dude, anything else? Any other like bottlenecks that you guys are dealing with, or is it mostly just? It's
mostly this. Yeah. Yeah, this is the current state. The app is live, the card is live, everything, and like it works great. Yeah, it really works, and those are the 2 things that we're focusing the most for the next few months. It's very exciting.
It's exciting, man.
Exciting times, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how long have you guys been like sort of in the works, working on the app and the card and all that?
A little over a year. Well, a year and a half now.
Yeah.
yeah, originally it was a little bit more focused on trading, but very quickly we shifted gears because we didn't want to focus on meme coins, and I'm very happy that we decided that. But yeah, it's been like a year and a half. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting, man. Well, we'll definitely put first of all like your Twitter in the bio below, and then
Amazing.
also Tuyo.com if anybody wants to go and check out the card, check out the app, be able to get some USDC in there and start using it in places with Tuyo. I think it's exciting that you guys are building for the future. You guys are tapping into really the next wave of what DeFi needs. So we're all sort of rooting for you if you can bring that liquidity
Thank
in
you.
and bring it on board. I think that'll be much better for everybody in the crypto space. So
Yes.
just want to say thank you guys for everything that you guys are working on. Really bullish on bringing it to the next wave of people. And yeah, did appreciate you hopping on.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me. This was great.